In this video, I'm going to give you a complete overview of Zoho CRM and its capabilities, but instead of rattling off all the things Zoho can do for you, I'll prioritize what Zoho CRM should do for you, including storing your data properly so you can have a single source of truth, key features so you can get the most out of Zoho, automation so you can work while you sleep, integration so you can avoid a tech stack data crisis, reporting so you can measure key performance indicators, and much more. Now, this video is for you if you are considering purchasing Zoho CRM or if you already have Zoho CRM and now you are looking to better understand it. Now, I'm Drew Brockbank. I'm an official Zoho consulting partner, and I am the owner of Brockbank Consulting. It's hard getting the most out of Zoho, so if you would like help unlocking Zoho's full potential for your business, book a free consultation and get the elite Zoho help that you will need. You can think about Zoho CRM like you think about the Contacts app on your phone. You use the Contacts app in your phone to store all the information for the people that you want to keep in touch with. Now, Zoho CRM is similar to that, except you're not just storing contact information, you're storing leads, deals, accounts, financial records, customer service records. All the information that your organization captures needs to be inside of Zoho CRM so you can avoid this situation where people are storing different records for different things in different places. If you do that, you'll have a data crisis where you can't really report on what's going on. You can't get a shared understanding of what's going on because your information is being stored in different locations. Okay, so that's step one. Step two, you don't want to see your data in a raw format as if you were looking at it in a spreadsheet. You want to see your data in relation to your processes so you can do something about the data coming into your organization. Because if all you're doing is capturing data for the sake of capturing data, then you're kind of missing the whole point. The reason that you capture all this information is so that you can move things forward for what's called the journey. So in your organization, if you are selling something, if you're a nonprofit, you just have your journey. If you're a for-profit organization, you'd call it your customer journey. How do you move people through the stages of your customer journey? So here is a couple stages that you can reference that are helpful for most organizations. These might not fit you exactly. That's okay. This is just for the purpose of a demonstration. You can see that I have stages so that I can see my information, right? These different records represented as cards. I can see information in relation to my processes. That way I can move things from left to right. And when systems are built from left to right, they're both intuitive for end users, and it makes reporting so much easier for administrators. So the reason that I'm showing you this is you don't want to conflate two things that almost everyone does. When I go into any organization's CRM, especially within Zoho CRM, I see this issue all the time where people conflate stages, which are the general phases of a process, with steps, which are specific things that you need to do in a process in order to move something forward. So in Zoho CRM, you want to make sure that number one, you've got 1 to 7 stages to measure, to represent your process in the system. And then you want to store your data in relation to your processes. That way you can actually do something about the information that you're capturing in your organization. You should be able to go into a record and get a 360-degree view of what's going on. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, inside of a record, you'll see information about a record. And at this point, we're pretty much on par with what a spreadsheet can do, right? I can have a spreadsheet called contacts. I can have the company name. I can have the lead name, the email, the phone number, etc. Okay, that's information about a record. Now, what you can't do in a spreadsheet and where CRMs shine is you can see related information inside of a record view, right? Like, where's the capability in a spreadsheet where you can go click on a row and see all the related emails and texts that you've sent and all their status changes? You're not able to do that inside of a spreadsheet. That's where a CRM system shines. Now, where Zoho CRM shines as a system is it can be a part of a larger platform called Zoho One, which is 46 Zoho applications that you can integrate together. That way, like you can see down here, Zoho Survey, Zoho Desk, Zoho WorkDrive, those are actually applications that aren't a part of Zoho CRM, but I can see related records from those applications in Zoho CRM because they're a part of a larger platform being Zoho One. The important thing to understand is number one, you should be able to see information about the record. You can add custom fields here to meet the needs for the critical data that you need to capture on certain records. And number two, you can see all the information related to this record so you don't have to jump back and forth between tons of different applications to access data. You can see it all in one view. That's what it means to have a 360-degree view of a record. Okay, and then finally you have timeline. So two parts of timeline. Number one, you can see the history of what's changed on a record. So this gives you an audit trail. And then number two, you can see interactions. So you can see what does it actually take to move someone through a journey. It's really important to understand that Zoho CRM allows you to create custom modules and custom fields. So as you use a platform like Zoho CRM, initially you want to match the information you're collecting with the design of these different modules. These different modules have different definitions and use cases. You want to match the information that you have with these different modules. Okay. Over time, though, you're going to collect additional information that you might not see a module for. And in that situation, Zoho CRM gives you that capability to create a new module. So you don't have to force data into an existing module. If it doesn't fit the definition of that module, you can create a brand new one, and then you can connect those modules to the existing modules. So that's a powerful custom capability there. Also, if you're not seeing different fields on a record for the information that you need to capture, you must capture additional information. You have the ability to add new fields to capture that information on a record. And you can even add a subform, which is a powerful way to collect multiple rows of information within a record. Okay, so a lot of capability to customize Zoho CRM to fit the needs of your organization. You should be able to see all the emails you've sent back and forth inside of Zoho CRM, and it's really easy to do this. It takes you 2 seconds. You just have to log in to your email in the email settings of Zoho CRM. So you can see here, I've logged into my Gmail account. I don't use Zoho Mail, I use Gmail. I like the Google Workspace suite better. However, if you want to use Zoho Mail or you want to use your Outlook account, you can integrate with those as well. So once the IMAP integration is completed, what you're able to do is have your email section inside of Zoho CRM populate with all the emails so everyone on your team can see the emails that have been sent back and forth. Also, this is really nice because it shows you all the emails that have been sent. So if you, let's say, had 2 people send emails back and forth to a certain contact, you'd be able to see all those emails in this section as an administrator. It's really powerful. You get a shared understanding of what everyone in your organization has sent to a specific contact record. Okay, so IMAP will do that automatically once you integrate with your email service provider. All the emails will automatically populate to the record based on the email on the record, right? So Zoho CRM will look at this email field, say, hey, there's a match, populate all the emails here. So this is a demo instance. That's why you're not seeing any emails, but you would see all the emails back and forth there. Okay, also, if you wanted to send emails out from Zoho CRM to prospects, customers, whoever you're sending them over to, you can do that, but you've got to authenticate your domain. Essentially, the reason why is because authentication prevents you from claiming that you own Disney.com or Nike.com and sending your Drew@Nike.com email or Drew@Disney.com email. You have to prove that you own it. So first it sends you an email and then it says, hey, do you actually own this? You click yes. And then second, you have to go into your DNS settings and you have to add what's called DKIM and SPF records to your DNS. So your DNS might be inside of GoDaddy or Bluehost. You'd have to sign in to your domain host. Then there's a DNS section where you can add records that will properly authenticate that domain with Zoho CRM. Once you've done that, you'll be able to send emails back and forth on an individual basis. So if you just want to send an email to an individual, you can do that. You can also create templates so you can merge information from the record into the email. That's one of the advantages of using Zoho CRM. And then number 3, you can also send mass emails up to 100 at a time, 1,000 a day. Zoho CRM is not built for mass marketing messages though. That's where you'd have to look at Zoho Marketing Automation / Zoho Campaigns, which I would recommend if you want to go above those limits because those tools are built for promotional communication, where Zoho CRM is primarily used for transactional communication. So those are the email capabilities within Zoho CRM. You should be tracking all of your activities inside of Zoho CRM. And the way that you can do that is you can see inside of a record, you'll see an open activities related list. And there's 3 records inside of activities that you need to be aware of. So number 1 is tasks. So earlier I mentioned you want to avoid conflating 2 things, stages and steps. Stages represent the different phases of a process. So for example, if I jump out here, you can see these are some of the different stages you can consider in your process. And then you have steps. Those are the specific things that you need to do to actually move the process along or move a record through a process, right? So that's where you got open tasks. So you'd represent steps inside of tasks and then stages in those Kanban columns that I was showing you earlier. Then you've got your meetings. The nice thing about your meetings is you can have this automatically populate based on the calendar that you're already using. So you'll see here that I have my calendar set up. It's integrated so that every time I book using my Google Calendar, it pushes over to Zoho CRM. You can do that both for Microsoft if you're using the Microsoft calendar or inside of Zoho as well. So that can happen for you automatically, similar to how Gmail, you set up your IMAP and it populates your emails. If you set up your calendar, it's going to automatically populate your meetings. And you can have it set up so that if you create meetings inside of Zoho CRM, that pushes it over to your calendar as well, which is great. Then you've got calls. Okay, so if you're an organization and you have a VoIP, a voice over IP, that's just a phone system that exists online, and you want to be able to make calls from Zoho CRM and have all your calls auto logged, then you're going to want to use telephony. So telephony allows you to configure your VoIP and integrate it seamlessly with Zoho CRM. So number one, you get single click dialing. So you can go into a record, you can click on call, you can make a call. Number two, you get personalized customer service. So if you have other apps other than Zoho CRM, you can actually flip through the different apps and see information related to the person calling you right from the bottom right hand side of your screen, which will pop up every time someone's calling you. And then you can save time with automatic call logging, which means every time a call happens, it's automatically going to find the record that has the phone number associated with the number that you called or that called you. And it's going to log that for you so you can see all that. You don't have to do a thing, which is great. Here's the different options you have for the VoIPs that you can integrate with. There's quite a few. Most people are going to use RingCentral, but Zoho also has an option called Zoho Voice. Okay, in addition to that, I want you to be aware of a calendar. So going back to activities, you have tasks, meetings, calls. So with meetings, you can also use the calendar that just exists within Zoho CRM. And then you don't have to use another calendar if you don't want to, but most people are married to their Google Calendar or their Outlook calendar, and they just want to integrate, and that's possible too. So you're able to just go here and you can add different meetings, schedule a call, whatever you'd like to do. There's calendar capabilities within Zoho CRM, and that's how you should be tracking the activities in Zoho CRM. There's a million different things that you can do with Zoho, none of which are worth doing unless they support your processes. So the best strategy for building Zoho or taking advantage of the functionality in Zoho is to first write out your processes, get them out of your head and write them down. If you don't know how to articulate your processes, you are never going to be successful within Zoho. Because the best way to find success with implementing Zoho is to take your process, to write it out. You don't have to do a flowchart. Just you can even use the 80-20 rule. Just write out 20% of the steps that are going to give you 80% of the understanding of how your business flows from top to bottom in a bulleted format. Once you've done that, you can highlight opportunities to support your process using Zoho, and then you can prioritize those items in terms of impact, and then you can design solutions for each of those items, okay? Once you write out your processes as well, you'll be able to design what's called your journey. So you'll notice here, I'm inside of Zoho CRM, and you can see I'm in my journey tab, which is actually a web tab, meaning I'm able to reference information from this Google Sheet right from Zoho. So I can display that information inside of Zoho so that everyone can get a shared understanding of our processes. So earlier with this document, these are the steps in the process. Once you have an understanding of the steps, you can group those steps together and get an idea of your stages. Once you have an idea of your stages, you can share the different stage definitions to give everyone in your organization, or even if you're a solopreneur, it's good for your own reference to have an idea of your processes from left to right. But you have to get detailed. You need to be detail oriented if you are going to implement Zoho correctly. Success is in the details for Zoho implementation. So the idea here is the better you can lay out your processes, the better you can specify which processes need to be supported by Zoho. And then you can use the different capabilities that we're talking about in this video correctly. Instead of just saying, hey, there's a new thing that came out in Zoho, let's see how we can use this. Say, these are our processes. What are the best capabilities that exist within Zoho to support our processes? You should be using Zoho CRM to take notes and to store notes on different records. So if you go into Zoho CRM and you jump into a record, you can go to the note-taking section by clicking on the notes related list on the left-hand side. And then you can add a note. You can add a title for that note. You can even attach things to the note right here. There's attachments. Then you can even use generative AI through what's called Zia. So all the artificial intelligence capabilities are wrapped up in what's called Zia inside of Zoho. And Zia has different features such as smart prompts. You've all probably used ChatGPT where you can prompt ChatGPT. It's pretty much the same thing here. You can do an open prompt, rephrase as a list, make it crisp and clear, reform overall structure. There's different out-of-box prompts, and then there's open prompts. The nice thing too is once I save this, if I want to summarize all the notes in the system as well, do summarize notes. On the 14th of September, 2024, Drew Brockbank added note stating demonstration note, demonstration note. Okay, that's not helpful, but you get the idea. If you were to add real notes here over time, you could summarize all of them instead of having to go into every single one individually and decipher what's happening inside of a record. So in Zoho CRM, you should be taking notes and storing your notes. You should attach files inside of Zoho CRM to your records to give them more context. The way that works inside of Zoho CRM is you go into a record and then you will see an attachments section in the related list. So if you click on attachments, you can go over to the section and you can attach different files. You can either upload a file directly from your device. You can upload from documents that are stored inside of Zoho CRM. You can upload documents that are stored on Zoho WorkDrive, which is a separate cloud storage application that Zoho offers. You can also import from other cloud drives such as Google Drive, and then you can also just add links to records if you just have a share file link. So that will allow you to provide further context inside of Zoho, and that's something that you should do to give more context to records inside of Zoho CRM. You should be using Zoho CRM to search for information quickly, and you can do that through the advanced search functionality. Search a record, you can type in the person that you're trying to find. You can even narrow down the scope of what you're trying to find so that you're not seeing all modules, you're not seeing all the information related to your search, but just in the modules that you're looking for. So you can do all modules, or you can switch it over to the specific module that you're trying to look within. So that's one of the advanced search functionalities. You can also do command / to open up Zia search, where you can also search across all the applications in Zoho. If you're not just using Zoho CRM, if you have multiple applications, you can look through your org contacts, your contacts, mail, click, all the various applications here. So you can do Zoho CRM search, and then where Zoho shines because it's a part of a larger platform. If you have Zoho One, you can also do Zia search to search within all the applications in your organization. You should be using Zoho CRM to automatically remind yourself of what you need to be doing. So inside of Zoho CRM, if you go into a record, you will notice there's a section for open activities. If you click on the add button, you can add a task. Now, to take a step back with you, in a process, you have two things. You have your stages, which are the general phases of the process. That's how you see the process at a high level. Then you have your steps, which are the specific things that you need to do in order to move the process forward. So if you are going to represent a step inside of Zoho CRM, you're going to create a task. When you go to create a task, you can type in the subject of the task, do a demonstration task, then you can set the due date. After you set the due date, you can automatically remind yourself of the task. So you can go to the reminder section. You can either remind yourself on a specific date and time, or you can do on a specific amount of days before the due date so that you are reminded. You can repeat this reminder on a daily basis if you would like, and you get to decide how you are reminded so that you can have your preferred communication for the reminder, whether that be an email, a pop-up in the system, or both. When I say in the system, I mean in Zoho CRM, you'll receive a pop-up saying, hey, you got to do this. So you should be using Zoho CRM to create those reminders so you are automatically being reminded of the task or the thing that you need to do. You should be using Zoho CRM to send emails automatically from your system, but you got to keep in mind that Zoho CRM is not built to send mass promotional communications or mass marketing messages. That's just not what Zoho CRM is built for. You can send 100 emails at a time, 1,000 a day within Zoho CRM. If you want to breach those limits, you have better applications available to you in the Zoho ecosystem, such as Zoho Campaigns and Zoho Marketing Automation 2.0. But there are messages that you can and arguably should be messaging yourself with or other people inside of Zoho CRM. To be specific, we're going to go into setup here. Then we're going to go over to automation and then workflow rules. I'm going to show you new lead notification. here is the workflow rule I want to show you. Okay, so the idea here is in the workflow builder, you can specify how you'd like the automation to behave. Every automation has three main parts that you need to worry about. The first is the when, so that's a trigger. You can do a time-based trigger, which would be every morning at 9 a.m. You can also do an event-based trigger, which is what we're seeing here. The event is when a lead is created. That's the event. So you got time-based or scheduled, and then you've got event-based triggers. Then you've got conditions. This is optional. You can run an automation on all leads that are created, but in this case, we added a condition. We said lead status is reached. So I only want to notify myself of the leads that have been created if they've been reached. All the other leads, I don't want to get a notification. I don't want to flood my inbox. Okay, so email notifications, lead notification email. You'll notice you're able to create templates inside of Zoho CRM and attach those templates to particular workflows. So this is a very basic template that I'm using. You can also send these emails to your customers and your contacts, but in this case, I'm sending this notification to myself just as an example. So just know that you can use workflows to send emails automatically to contacts and to customers or anyone that you'd like to send it to. In this case, I'm just sending it over to myself. So you should be using Zoho CRM to automate sending out emails. You should be using Zoho CRM to automate the mundane, time-consuming, repetitive tasks that are on your plate. So inside of Zoho CRM, you can go over to settings. Then you can go over to workflow rules under automation. And we're going to search for a good example automation. So in this use case, in a B2B organization, you may be B2C, and there's actually a relevant use case to what we're talking about for B2C as well. But in B2B, if you mark a deal as closed won, it's possible that you can close multiple deals with the same organization over time. And so what you'd want to do is take the amount that you closed, right, the revenue you generated for the organization, and you want to add that to the account so you can see a roll-up of all the associated deals to that account in one place. But you have to do that automatically out of the box. Zoho CRM doesn't do that for you automatically, so you have to teach it how, and you can teach it how using the workflow section. If you jump into functions, you're able to script your own custom functions. Now, because there's no out-of-box solution for what we just discussed, that issue that we're trying to automate, we have to use a script. Thankfully, Zoho CRM has its own scripting language called Deluge, which allows you to do pretty much whatever you want with the data. You can think of Deluge as JavaScript for Zoho. Okay, so here's the thing to understand. You're able to be very specific about what data you want to grab. So here you can see that we're getting all the related records from the account, specifically the deal related records to an account. And then what we're doing is for each deal inside of the each deal related to the account, we're making sure the stage is one, it contains one, and then we are getting the totals and we are iterating through every single one of those deals. And every time we go to a deal, we capture that value and we add it to the amount field on the account automatically. At the very end, we have that total for the new account amount value. And then we go into that account and we update that deal amount with the new total. Okay, so the nice thing is, instead of doing this over and over again, and it might be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes for you, you want to automate as much as you can. That way you take the burden off yourself. You place that on the system because the system will do it perfectly every single time as long as it's coded correctly. You don't run into any bugs in the script. Okay, so that is how you should be automating mundane tasks that are time-consuming and repetitive inside of Zoho CRM using Deluge. You should be using client scripts to further automate those mundane, time-consuming things that are often done incorrectly. So if you want to create some consistency, you can create a client script, for example, on the deal, so that no matter what someone puts for the deal name, it's consistent. Some people put the account for the deal name. Some people do the account and what's being sold. Some people do the account, what's being sold, and the date. It gets really confusing. So to standardize that and make it less confusing, you can automate it with client scripts. So for example, if I go into this client script, you can see here is a code block of JavaScript that takes information from various fields like the account, the contact name, and the amount, and then it automatically populates the deal name for you. That way you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you go to the deal name. It's a small thing, but it's a nice thing. And the more users you have in your organization, the more valuable these functions become because it can standardize things and it can take the thinking away from a person who needs to have it on something that's more creative or more critical, and it offloads these mundane small tasks to the system so that the system can take care of it. You should consider Zoho Flow if you want to take your automations up a notch. So the nice thing about Zoho Flow is you can actually, and I'll create a demonstration flow here, is you can integrate with all these different applications, or you can just create automations in all these different applications within Zoho Flow. So this really extends the capabilities of what you're able to do. So in Zoho CRM, you can really just create automations for Zoho CRM. In Zoho Flow, you can create automations for your Zoho apps and for applications that you're using outside of the Zoho ecosystem. So it just makes automation easier and integration easier. If you know anything about Zapier, this is a parallel product to Zapier. In my opinion, it's better because not only is it cheaper, but you can use Deluge to really manipulate the data in any way that you want. So if you're on Zoho and you want to take automation up a notch and you want to take it more seriously, Zoho Flow is a tool that you want to consider. The other nice thing is you don't just have to trigger and integrate with other applications. You can schedule different integrations and automations to occur. You can trigger automations and integrations based on a webhook. If you don't know anything about a webhook, essentially what you can do is in another system, so a third-party application outside of Zoho that you have, if you want to push information to Zoho CRM, as long as it has the capability to push information via webhook, you can assign a target URL here and then absorb that information. It's called a payload when you push information via webhook. You can absorb the payload, which is the data that you want to come over. So for example, let's say you were building your website on Webflow. Well, Webflow has this weird thing where it's kind of a closed off system, but it does allow you to push it via webhook. Okay, so we can assign a target URL to this flow, and then we could grab information from Webflow when a form is submitted on their website. Right, so they have really beautiful forms. That's why it's kind of a closed system. They don't want you to be able to embed your own forms. They want to push the information they want to out of Webflow. Just as one use case example, there's a lot of examples of why you could use webhooks. And so we can grab first name, last name, email, and all the contact information that comes along with the web form from the Webflow form into this webhook and then create automation based on it. Then you've got URL, so you can periodically trigger and see on a URL when new data is found. You can look on look through an email template, so you can you can send emails to Zoho Flow, and Zoho Flow can parse the email and then find information that's consistently being presented on that email. And then you have an RSS atom feed, so it triggers when a new item is posted in the specified RSS or atom feed. So you have all these different triggers, really expands the capabilities of what you can do for automation. So these are some reasons to consider using Zoho Flow. You should further automate and integrate your tech stack using Zoho CRM's API. So if you don't know anything about an API, it stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's essentially an application's way of saying, this is how you can automate or integrate with us. Here's the rules. So every single automation for the API that the API supports, this is the documentation on Zoho CRM's application programming interface, has what's called an endpoint. So here's an endpoint right here for pushing records. So let's give ourselves a use case so this makes a little more sense. Let's say you're in a B2B organization and you have hired an agency to generate leads for you. Every time they generate a lead, they're like, we want to send this information to you. Now, instead of sending it to you through a spreadsheet, you think to yourself, hey, we've got an API for Zoho CRM, just push the information to us automatically. This is a common use case for using Zoho CRM's API to insert records, right? This is the automation or integration you could refer to in order to make that happen. So basically how the API works is it says, this is the endpoint, okay? API domain, it's the CRM, the version, module API name. So this is the request URL. If they push to this URL, now it's not going to make a lot of sense here, right? Because in your Zoho CRM instance, you would have all this information populate to give yourself a specific URL to use. They would post the information here. They would have the lead first name, last name, email, phone number, description, whatever they would want to send over to you. And then you can support, this is supported for leads, accounts, contacts. In this case, you'd push over to the leads module, okay? So then you can add some additional information, give additional information to whoever's working with the API so that they can authenticate with the API. And then they can also add all the necessary parameters in the API call. That way the information actually gets over to you correctly, okay? So that's what's nice is you can send over a JSON object. JSON just standing for JavaScript Object Notation. It's the format in which they need to send you information to work with the API. Okay, so if that sounds like a bunch of gibberish, just think about it like this. People can send you information from other applications. through this API. It's a little confusing to set up. You have to be a bit technical, but it is very powerful. And you should be aware that Zoho CRM does have API capabilities, and its API documentation and its API in general is very robust. I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention Zoho One. So many people using Zoho CRM or that find out about Zoho CRM don't know anything about Zoho One, and it's really where Zoho shines as a company. Zoho One is 46 applications that are offered to you at a very low price. So Zoho CRM is also really cheap, but if you really want to take advantage of the technology that Zoho offers, and this is really the best deal in business software. It's the most amount of software that you can get, the most amount of good software that you can get for the least amount of cost. Okay, so if you go over to pricing right now, at the time of making this video, Zoho is $37 per user per month billed annually if you get all employee pricing, and then it's $90 per user per month billed annually if you just want to cherry pick who gets licenses to Zoho One. Okay, so that is the pricing for Zoho One. It's extremely cheap and gives you very robust software. It's a steal of a deal. Why pay more for software? No one cares what platform you're using as long as it works. So test some of these out, get the free trials, see if it works for you. And then if it does, move over to Zoho One so you can replace expensive software with software that works and doesn't absolutely rip you off with the cost. So there's so many different applications here. I err on the side of it's better to have it and not need it than need it, not have it. And so if you abide by that principle as well, and you want the tools to operate your business in the best way possible, then you should consider getting Zoho One. You should be using Zoho's out-of-box integrations with other Zoho applications. That way you don't have these data silos that keep you from getting the job done. One of the issues nowadays with organizations with too much software is because their software doesn't talk to each other. They have a really fractured workflow and it takes them forever to get things done, and they have to use 20 different tools to get things done. So to avoid that, you can integrate your applications together and unify your tech stack. Now that might be strange to you because you might be thinking to yourself, well, Drew, Zoho is one platform. Don't they share the same storage engine? And you'd be wrong. Because each Zoho app can be purchased independently from another, they each have their independent storage engine, which means you have to integrate the different storage engines together in order to have a unified tech stack. So how do you actually do that? You can go over to Setup in Zoho. Apologies, there's a new UI here. So you actually go to Marketplace, and then you go over to the Zoho section for integrations. Now you have integrations out of the box that are built into Zoho for Google, where you just have to sign in, Microsoft, where you just have to sign in. In Zoho, if you're signed in, here's the different applications you can integrate with. And we are going to go over the critical out-of-box integrations here one by one. If you're going to do your marketing within the Zoho platform, then you should integrate Zoho CRM with your marketing platform. And you have two main options when it comes to Zoho for doing marketing automation. So you've got Zoho Campaigns. I'd say it's the more popular of the two. Zoho Campaigns is mainly meant for sending emails and sending texts to lists of people in your contacts and leads database. So it's more like MailChimp and ActiveCampaign. And then you have another option, which we'll go over in just a moment, but I want you to see that inside of the Zoho Campaigns interface, you are able to integrate directly with the leads and contacts modules. Once you set that up, all the information will pour over into Zoho Campaigns, and it will allow you to build the segments that you need. That way you don't have a cluster situation where you don't have any groupings within your contacts and leads, and then you're too scared to send any communications because you don't really have any segmentation going on. You're able to build those segments because you have so much data coming over from Zoho CRM. So that's the first thing. And by the way, I've set up custom integrations with third-party tools between Zoho CRM and my clients' marketing automation platforms. One of the biggest challenges is that initial integration. So the fact that Zoho CRM has this baked in, you can go to Zoho CRM and you can just integrate with Zoho Campaigns. That is a huge win. So we can't understate how powerful it is that all of these integrations are plug and play. We really just have to go sign in and then do the initial setup, which takes a couple minutes, and then it's done, as opposed to pushing information over via webhook and then having a two-way sync going on. All of that is very complicated. So the fact that they've done the heavy lifting here, you should take advantage of that. Now let's move on to option number 2. Okay, so you have marketing automation, Zoho Marketing Automation 2.0. So they've released their newer version of this application, and it is so much better than their first version. So you can think of Zoho Marketing Automation as less like MailChimp MailChimp and ActiveCampaign, although Zoho Marketing Automation can send mass emails and SMS communications, and it is built to do that, it can do more. It's more like HubSpot. It's more of like a full Zoho, it's more of a full marketing automation suite of tools, okay? So most people are switching over to Zoho Marketing Automation. I'd actually recommend that you start with Zoho Marketing Automation because you can't integrate with both Zoho Campaigns and Zoho Marketing Automation if you're inside of Zoho One. It's just not going to let you integrate Zoho CRM with both databases. You got to choose one because there's so much overlap between the two applications. So you've got to make the choice. I recommend that you choose Zoho Marketing Automation because it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Also, Zoho Marketing Automation is more powerful, can do more things than Zoho Campaigns. For example, one of those things is you can build landing pages and publish them on your website through Zoho Marketing Automation, whereas you can't do anything like that inside of Zoho Campaigns. So that's a big win for Zoho Marketing Automation. It's just more powerful and it's got a better UI UX in my opinion. Okay, so here is the section inside of Zoho Marketing Automation where you can actually set up a sync between Zoho CRM. So you can see I'm inside of ma.zoho.com. That's marketingautomation.zoho.com. This is the sync settings for Zoho CRM. So again, if you are going to do your marketing within the Zoho platform, either through Zoho Marketing Automation or Zoho Campaigns, then you should set up the integration between Zoho CRM and your marketing automation platform. If you're going to send invoices and quotes from Zoho CRM to potential customers or existing customers, then you want to set up the Zoho Finance Suite to Zoho CRM integration. Now, earlier I mentioned that each of the applications in Zoho have their own storage engines, and that's true most of the time, except in the case of the Zoho Finance application. So you can see the Zoho Finance Suite includes multiple Zoho apps. So here you've got Zoho Books, Zoho Expense, Zoho Billings, and Zoho Inventory. So in this case, the Zoho Finance Suite of applications actually do share the same storage engine. When I say that, I mean customers exist throughout all those applications. You don't have to set up integrations between them, which makes your job so much easier. Also, if you're using QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, I highly recommend that you move over to the Zoho Finance Suite so that you can save a fortune on those tools and you can bring them into the Zoho platform so you can just do this from one platform. Also, the added benefit of that is you don't have to do a crazy integration with your CRM. If you're not using Zoho and you're on QuickBooks, if you bring it into the Zoho suite, this integration is really, really neat and it saves you so much work and time. Okay, so what does it actually do for you? Well, once you actually set this up, the first thing that you can do inside of Zoho CRM from an end user's perspective that's really powerful is you'll see on the left-hand side, there's a Zoho Finance related list. And here are 4 different objects that you can create without even having to go into Zoho Books or Zoho Inventory. So number 1, you can create estimates and you can send estimates over to your customers. You can actually change this now to quotes. You can send sales orders. If you're not familiar with the sales order, a sales order acts as a master record, which is created to signify, hey, this is the sale that happened. But if you want to create multiple invoices underneath the sales order, you can do that as well. Also, a part of the sales order would be if you're selling physical goods, actually shipping that out, then you've got packages. So you can link those to, associate those to a sales order as well. So you have the financial obligation and then the actual fulfillment of what was purchased. So then you've got the invoices that you can send out. If you do it through Zoho Finance, by the way, the big benefit here is you can send the invoice and get it paid. When someone opens the invoice, they can actually pay it. Whereas if you don't use the Zoho Finance Suite and you send an invoice, it's just a PDF. It's just something they can look to. They're not going to be able to pay through that invoice with their credit card. That has to happen in Zoho Finance. You also have the option to take payment through ACH, but that's not going to automatically mark itself as paid inside of Zoho Finance. So Zoho Finance is so much more robust. It is a bit confusing because Zoho CRM out of the box has financial objects, but that's just to store the information. It's not as robust as Zoho Books where you can actually send the invoice and collect payment. So you want to use the Zoho Finance Suite integration, especially if you're going to move over from QuickBooks on desktop online, or if you have a different accounting platform and you're moving it over to Zoho Finance, you're going to want to make sure you set up the Zoho CRM to Zoho Finance integration. You should use the Zoho CRM to Zoho WorkDrive integration in order to expand your cloud storage. Because in Zoho CRM, you get very limited storage. And you can see in this instance of Zoho CRM, I have 10 gigs available. That is nothing, especially if you're going to be attaching different files to different records, that is going to get consumed very quickly. That's not a lot of storage for an organization. So I can purchase additional storage for Zoho CRM specifically, or I can do the smart thing and I could just get Zoho WorkDrive and expand my storage capabilities. Because look, in Zoho WorkDrive, I've used 2.66 gigs out of 5 terabytes of data. So you get way more data that you can work with. And then you can actually take advantage of this inside of Zoho CRM by going to a specific record. And then in a specific record, you can go over to attachments and you can attach using Zoho WorkDrive. Okay. So it's much more robust in Zoho CRM for cloud storage if you get the Zoho WorkDrive application and you use the Zoho CRM to Zoho WorkDrive integration. If you want to take your customer service more seriously, then you're going to want to get Zoho Desk. And if you get Zoho Desk and you have Zoho CRM, you should use the Zoho Desk to Zoho CRM integration because it is very robust. So Zoho Desk, if you don't know, it's pretty much an email inbox that you can share with your entire organization. You can give a support address out to your customers. So if they need support, they can email you. It creates a ticket. And then you can work as a team to support your customer ticket requests. Okay. So the key thing to understand here is there is an out-of-box integration with Zoho Desk. You don't have to create it from scratch. That'd be really painful. You can port over your products, your accounts, your contacts from Zoho CRM to Zoho Desk and have that two-way integration set in stone right off the bat. So if you're going to take customer support seriously, integrate Zoho CRM with Zoho Desk, save yourself some time and get that set up. If you are going to take project management more seriously, then you should consider Zoho Projects. Now, it may be confusing to some of you because inside of Zoho CRM, you have a task module, but you have to understand with Zoho Projects, you get much more. So in Zoho Projects, you're able to manage much more work than you'd be able to inside of Zoho CRM because Zoho CRM just has a task module. So it's very surface level task management. Zoho Projects is project management. So you have a different hierarchy of objects that you can use to organize your work. For example, in Zoho Projects, you have the ability to manage your project groups, your projects, your milestones, your task lists, your tasks, and your subtasks. Okay, you don't have all those objects to organize your work inside of Zoho CRM because Zoho CRM is not a project management tool. It is simply a tool that you can store tasks for anything that's sales related. So if you want to take it up a notch for your project management needs, get Zoho Projects. It is much more robust. And the nice thing is inside of Zoho CRM, you can easily integrate with Zoho Projects. That way, when you close a deal, you can kick off your onboarding project or whatever project that you need to organize the work that has to get done. And so inside of Zoho CRM, you have this neatly created integration with Zoho Projects. So if you're going to get Zoho Projects and manage your work there, set up this integration. While Zoho CRM does have reporting capabilities, you have to understand that most in-application report builders are not nearly as robust as business intelligence platforms such as Zoho Analytics. So inside of Zoho CRM, you are able to integrate very quickly with what's called Zoho Analytics. That's Zoho's BI tool. And Zoho's BI tool allows you to port data over into Zoho Analytics from multiple applications inside of the Zoho platform and outside of the Zoho platform. So you're able to report on data that doesn't even exist in Zoho, but exists in your third-party applications as well. But the nice thing about it is it has way more capabilities for building the reports that you need. And almost always when we bring on clients that have reporting needs, we bring them into Zoho Analytics so we can build the reports quicker with more tools and get them the exact visualizations that they want and report in the way that they want. So you are going to want to start off, if you're going to take reporting seriously and you know you're going to do that, get Zoho Analytics and then set up this integration between Zoho CRM and Zoho Analytics so you can report exactly the way that you need. So Zoho CRM does have the capabilities to build web forms, but they're not nearly as robust as what you're going to get through Zoho Forms, which is another Zoho application that I recommend if you have more robust web form building needs. So you can see here that I have a lot of information I'm collecting on this demonstration form. And I'm also able to capture really important marketing data, which is called UTM parameters here in this section. So the whole idea of what I'm showing you here for Zoho Forms is if you get Zoho Forms, you can easily integrate with Zoho CRM. So you're able to map the fields from Zoho Forms that you're collecting, and then you're able to push that into Zoho CRM in a very straightforward manner. It doesn't take much to set this up. Once the form is set up, it takes a couple minutes to integrate that form with Zoho CRM. So if you have more robust web form building needs, and you'll probably run into those eventually, whether you're building forms for your website or you're building intake forms, whatever forms that you're building for your organization, you'll want to get Zoho Forms, then integrate that with Zoho CRM. If you want to integrate your e-commerce platform with Zoho CRM, so yes, this is for those of you who are doing B2C and you have a storefront on your website, then you can use this integration here. So technically, this isn't a direct connection from your e-commerce platform to Zoho CRM, but I will bring it all home so that it makes sense. Okay, so first you have to integrate with Zoho Inventory, which is an inventory management system. It's a part of the Zoho Finance Suite, but you can integrate the Zoho Finance Suite with Zoho CRM. So you can get that data from your Shopify site as an example. You can use Zoho Commerce, you can use WooCommerce and BigCommerce. You can get that information over into Zoho Inventory and then push it over to Zoho CRM, and you can get that two-way integration going so you have a clear picture of what's going on from a B2C standpoint. Okay, so this is extremely powerful. This is a much quicker and more straightforward way of setting up a B2C system than if you were to do this all from scratch. It would be much more difficult. Also, you can create an integration between Zoho Inventory and your shipping carriers, just so you can be aware of that. It's not a Zoho CRM thing, but I think it's a really important thing to understand. You can get live shipping updates from your carriers inside of Zoho Inventory and then over to Zoho CRM in the shipping section of the integration. If you go down to a contact record and you see their sales orders, you can see there will be a shipping thing for packages. And so this integration allows you to get those updates instead of having to do them manually. Okay, so you've got different e-commerce platforms that you can integrate with. So if you don't have your own storefront and you want to use Amazon storefront, Etsy, eBay, you can integrate with those as well. Then of course, you can integrate Zoho Inventory with your accounting system, whether that be Zoho Books, QuickBooks Online, or Xero. So you're able to integrate with these, bring that information in Zoho Inventory, and then tie that with Zoho CRM as well. If you want to push information from Zoho CRM to another platform that you're using, then you can further integrate Zoho CRM with your tech stack using the Webhooks section. So a webhook is just a way of pushing information to another application. I mentioned Zoho has an API, which allows you to push information from another third-party app into Zoho, right? So if you want to push information from another app to Zoho, use the API. If you want to push information from Zoho CRM to another application, you can use its webhook functionality, which can work with another application's API. Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you, that's okay. You just need to know that you can push information from Zoho CRM to another application using this webhook builder, right? So they'll have their own API. Let's give ourselves an example to further color this in. So let's say you have an ERP, an enterprise resource planning software, and every time you create a contact inside of Zoho CRM, you actually want to push that to your ERP solution as well. Well, what you can do is you can build a webhook, you can look at the API documentation of the ERP, and you can find the target URL. Then you can add data to that webhook, which would be considered a payload. You can merge information, so you do the target URL, and then you would do, let's say you have to put the key value pairs, but for the value pairs, you do hashtag, you'd merge information from the contact to the end of that URL, and then you would save this, add it to a workflow rule so that when a contact is created, it triggers this webhook to send information from Zoho CRM to your ERP tool. So again, the important thing to understand isn't all the technical stuff here. It's just important to understand that you can push information from Zoho CRM to third-party tools that have APIs. You have two options for reporting on your Zoho CRM data. The first option that you have is Zoho CRM's in-app report builder, which is extremely limited. So oftentimes people will move from the in-app report builder in Zoho CRM over to a BI tool. Zoho provides a BI tool, BI standing for business intelligence, and it's called Zoho Analytics. So Zoho CRM has a Zoho CRM Analytics section, so it makes it kind of confusing because you've got Zoho CRM Reports, Zoho CRM Analytics, and then a separate app, which isn't Zoho CRM at all. It's called Zoho Analytics. So we're going to go over all three of these options so that you can determine what you need. But I will say almost all my clients eventually max out with Zoho CRM's in-app report capabilities are and have to move over to Zoho Analytics. So it's much better to start there if you know that you're going to end there instead of having to move all your reports over because it will not integrate the way that you think. So moving over to Zoho Analytics is typically the right move for most organizations. Now with that, I'm going to show you an example of the in-app report that you can produce inside of Zoho CRM. Now there's two sections to build reports inside of Zoho CRM, so it's a bit confusing. So if we zoom into the left-hand side here, this is the new user interface. It's called Zoho CRM for everyone. You are going to see this section for Zoho CRM reports. Then if I hover over this icon, you're going to see this is for Zoho Analytics. So what's the difference? Zoho CRM reports produce tabular reports, which we're looking at right now. And we're going to zoom back out to show you. And then you have Zoho CRM Analytics, which allows you to build visual reports. So this is a Zoho CRM in-app report builder. You can see it's pretty basic, but if it's all you need, then that is great. You can meet that requirement inside of Zoho CRM's in-app report builder. So you can see this is for all open deals in the system, and I can just get a list and I can add the different columns that I need in order to produce the report that I want here. So you can string together multiple tables or modules together if you need to. That's why I'm able to see deal name data and account name data, so I can bring additional account name data if I'd like to. But this is an example of a Zoho CRM report. Let's go over to Zoho CRM Analytics. So this one is a bit different. This is where you can see, again, a pie chart visualization of different leads by source. You can see lead generation targets. You can create different visualizations to view the data inside of Zoho CRM the way that you want. Now, one of the issues here is because you don't have the ability to use SQL, you really have to use what's baked into Zoho CRM Analytics. There's not a lot of customization and not a lot of configuration that you can do to produce the exact reports that you need. So I'm also going to go over how you can use Zoho Analytics to produce reports and dashboards. If you want to take reporting seriously inside of Zoho, then you need Zoho Analytics. Here is a dashboard created in Zoho Analytics to give you an idea, to show you the contrast between what you're able to do in Zoho CRM and what you're able to do in Zoho Analytics. These are reports that can't be produced inside of Zoho CRM. For example, here's an attribution report. Now, the only reason I was able to produce this report to show directly what lead sources were providing revenue for the organization, and then also to show you the trail of progression for every opportunity. The only reason I was able to do that is because I could use SQL. That allowed me to modify the base table so that I could produce this report and then put this attribution report on this executive dashboard that you're seeing right now. Okay. Then you've got this customer journey funnel report. This one also is built on a SQL table. Zoho Analytics will allow you to build SQL tables. You're not able to do that inside of Zoho CRM. That is really one of the biggest major advantages here to Zoho Analytics as a platform. Also, inside of Zoho Analytics, you can also create these different data sources. And what's really powerful about this is you can not only report on data from Zoho apps, but also on apps outside of Zoho. So you can see all these different softwares that you're able to integrate with so that you can build reports across different applications and use SQL to string the data together so that you can create the base tables you want, then the reports that you want, then the dashboards that you need. Okay, so that's the power of Zoho Analytics. Most people end up here because it is so much more robust than what you're seeing in Zoho CRM. So I highly recommend that you start here because more likely than not, you're going to end here. And if you end up capping the capabilities of Zoho CRM, it's a very painful switch if you have reports that you love there and you have to recreate them. So those are things to consider with the reporting capabilities between Zoho Analytics and Zoho CRM. So you can see month to month how well leads are coming into the organization, what kinds of leads are they marketing qualified, how well deals are being created in the system, or how many deals are being created in the system, and then how many deals are being closed month to month in the organization. So Zoho Analytics allows you to produce more advanced reports, and that is another option for reporting on Zoho CRM data. If you need to send quotes to your customers or prospects, then you want to use Zoho CRM's CPQ functionality. CPQ stands for Configure Price Quote. Inside of Zoho CRM, you can see that we are in the deals module, which represents opportunities with different organizations or different people. Now, if I jump into this deal card here, you can see there's a quotes section. I can jump into here. Now, this is more likely than not going to be for those of you who are doing B2B as opposed to B2C. So if this isn't relevant to you, if you don't send quotes to people, then you don't have to watch this. It's not necessary. But let's give ourselves an example test record here that we can use to show you how you can first configure this. Let's say I was doing a Zoho migration. I'm going to mark this as 20,000, and then we're going to save this. Now from here, I can jump into the quotes section and I can see all the quotes that are against this opportunity. So if I've sent multiple quotes over time, I can see historically all the quotes that have been sent and the different quote stages. Now from here, I can jump into the quote and then I can go over to the mail merge functionality. If I want to merge it over into a document, I can also send this as an email to somebody so that they can see the quote for themselves. So you can see here, this generates a quote for me automatically. Then I can go to next and I can send it out. Okay. So that is the power there. I can also just export this as a PDF if I want to attach it inside of my email client. So I can go here to the proposed bill report or the template, and then I can go over to export. And then from the export, I can actually send it out to a prospect or existing customer that I'm doing another deal with or recurring business with. Okay. So the last thing that's important to mention here is if you are working with Zoho CRM and Zoho Inventory, you're going to work with the finance applications or Zoho Books, you're going to want to push the information from this quote over to Zoho Books / Zoho Finance. And you can do so with this convert to sales order in books custom function that we've created. Now, that's not going to exist in your account because this is not built into Zoho. This is a custom script that we created, but you got to understand why if you're going to work with the Zoho Finance modules. First off, a quote cannot be converted to a Zoho CRM invoice to then be sent for payment for a customer / prospect because people can't pay through the invoice that Zoho CRM can send. They can only pay through an invoice that Zoho Books can send, and you can't manage your inventory inside of Zoho CRM like you can with the Zoho Finance applications, Zoho Books, and Zoho Inventory. So that means if you want to take advantage of the CPQ functionality in Zoho CRM and you want to take advantage of Zoho Books financial capabilities, then you've got to do some kind of integration here. And that's where the convert to sales order in books comes in. If I click this, it will actually iterate through each of these items and it will create a sales order inside of Zoho Books, which is the perfect pass point from information inside of Zoho CRM that's financially related to Zoho Finance / Zoho Books / Zoho Inventory. They all have the same storage engine. That's why I'm saying /. Okay. So with that, that's the ability for you to create quotes, send out quotes, and then convert a quote to a sales order inside of Zoho Finance. If you need to send contracts or agreements to different prospective customers or existing customers that you're doing recurring business with, then you want to use Zoho CRM's mail merge to Zoho Sign capabilities. If I go into an example demo deal here, which represents an opportunity to do a deal with someone, an opportunity to do an agreement with someone, then I can go into here. And then from here, I can go to the top right. You can see these 3 dots. Then I can go over to mail merge, and then I can merge information from the deal with a template. Okay. So once I merge this saves me hours of having to go in, recreate this from scratch each time, and then add information manually from a record, copy and paste it over. There are these different fields here. They're called merge fields, which indicates, hey, this information from the account record, I'd like it to populate here. Then you can do that throughout the entire record. Also, I've added sign tags here so that when I push this eventually over to Zoho Sign, I can send this thing out for signature. Within one workflow, it's very difficult to string the applications together to do this. So you can see here, if I run the merge, it'll take a couple seconds to identify where the merge fields are, and it will pull over from Zoho CRM. Then in a new tab, it will automatically create this for me, which is great. Obviously, this is a boilerplate NDA. If you wanted to create your own template that you can use for sending out agreements or proposals, you can certainly do that as well. From here, I can go over to distribute, then I can go over to Zoho Sign, and then I can send it out from signature right from Zoho Sign. So if you are going to send out agreements, you should be using the Zoho CRM to mail merge to Zoho Sign Flow. If you are looking to bring all of your data from a legacy CRM over to Zoho CRM, legacy just meaning the CRM that you're currently using, and then Zoho CRM would be your target tool that you're migrating over to, then you want to use the import tool, also known as the migration tool inside of Zoho CRM. So you can see there's all of these different options for you out of the box for moving over from Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics 365, HubSpot, and more. Now, if you aren't moving over from these systems, if you're moving over from a different platform, you can also click on Other CRM. You could say these are coming over from spreadsheets. It doesn't really matter what you put here. Then you can continue. You can grab files from your system. And once you grab those files from your system, what you're able to do is map the different spreadsheets that you're trying to bring over to different modules in Zoho CRM. Then you can map field by field or automatically, and this is what's really nice, you can automatically create fields for the different columns you have in your spreadsheet automatically. And what I recommend people do, we can go way down the rabbit hole on migrations, but what I recommend that people do is just bring over everything initially. If there's fields you know you don't need to bring over, then you can delete those in your spreadsheets. But bring over everything, and then you can do a session where you go through each of the modules that you brought data into, and then you can just remove the fields. The nice thing about that is when you remove the fields, it doesn't necessarily remove the data in the back end. It just removes it from the front end from people's view. That way, if you bring everything over, you don't have to do multiple migrations in the future. If you're like, oh, we forgot this field and this field and this field, which happens all the time. So just bring it all over. You can automatically, using this tool, you can say if you haven't mapped the values, you can bulk create all the fields inside of Zoho CRM. So I recommend that you do that. Then you remove afterwards, after the migration, you can remove the different fields that you're like, yeah, this data is either messy or we don't need it. It's redundant. And that is the best way to migrate over your data from another system to Zoho CRM using this migration tool. If you want to import data into a specific module in Zoho CRM, you can do that by going into the module, then going over to this section, go to import whatever record you'd like to import, and then you can drag a file that you have on your device into the From File section. If you want to bring over data from a different system, CRM system that you're using, you can use the migration tool as well. Now, the difference being migrations typically have multiple modules or objects or spreadsheets that you're trying to move over all at once. That's when you'd want to use the migration tool. Whereas if you just need to import, let's say, a couple thousand leads or a couple thousand contacts or a couple thousand accounts, that's when you would use the From File section. The nice thing about this tool is once you select a file, you are able to, and let's just browse for contacts here. You can bring over contacts record, 50 contacts, perfect. From here, you can actually go to add new contacts. You can create, and then you can map the fields over from the file to the fields in Zoho CRM. Then if you need to create new fields for data that exists in the spreadsheet, but doesn't exist in your CRM, then you can do that all from here. And then if you don't have values and you want to assign default values, you can do that as well. So this is a very robust import tool, but then you also have the migration tool if you want to bring over multiple sets of data across different modules, spreadsheets, or objects. Zoho CRM has a very neat capability called Canvas View. It allows you to customize the front end UI of a record and of a list view for multiple records. So you can see there's different templates here that you can look through to determine which view is going to be best for you. Now, I'll tell you one of the reasons that I think this is something not to do is Canvas View requires a lot of work on the front end. So if you are a web designer or if you are a UI UX designer, then this is for you. Most of you are not going to be UI UX designers or web designers, and you probably don't want to commit to the upkeep for Canvas View. For example, if you use the standard view and you drag a field onto the layout, you're done. If you add a new field in Canvas view, you might have to jump into the certain section and literally drag it pixel for pixel onto the part of the screen that you want it to exist on. And it can very quickly get ugly because people won't keep it up over time. And so I suggest that you maybe look through this initially to see if there's a template that's great for you. Most people want to use it so they can flip through tabs. But I would argue that it's better not to have your view in a tabular format, but to have it in a doom scroll format where you just have to scroll through all the information as opposed to digging through different tabs, because this is more confusing. We are used to doom scrolling. We're used to scrolling through information. I'd rather have information formatted like that than this, but that is my preference. So if your preference is to have a more stylized view that you are willing to keep up, then Canvas is for you. If you want to keep it simple, you don't want to overcomplicate things, then don't worry about using Canvas view, but I want you to be aware of it because it's a neat feature. It gets really overwhelming to jump into a system and see a bunch of data that isn't relevant to you. One of the ways that a CRM will shine in comparison to a spreadsheet is the ability to add saved custom views. So you can see here I have all these different views so that I can select the view that gives me an understanding of the information in a way that's relevant to my specific task or situation. Or in other words, you don't want to see all the information all the time. You just want to see the information in the system that's relevant to the task at hand or for your role. So the nice thing about this is I can customize what this looks like. I'm able to essentially add pre-baked filters into a view and then access these at any time. I can also clone these different views. So if someone has a view that I like, but I like to tweak it, I can do that. I can add different information here. I can specify the criteria for the view. That way I can access the information that I need when I need it. Just because you give someone access to your CRM doesn't mean you want it to be the Wild West where they can delete every single record in your system. And so in order to control what people have access to and what they can do with the information they have access to, you have two tools at your disposal. Those tools are roles and permissions. So if you go over to the security control section right here inside of Zoho CRM, you're going to notice profiles and roles and sharing. So roles and sharing determine what information you have access to. Profiles determines what you're able to do with the information you have access to. Now that's generally because you can also control what a user has access to with profiles, but generally roles and sharing is for what you have access to, and then profiles is what you can do to the records you have access to. Okay, so let's start with one of these. The administrator profile that comes out of the box with Zoho CRM is very generous in what it enables a user to do. So you can see pretty much everything is flipped on, but the nice thing is you can scroll through all the different things you can enable or disable a user to do. You can provide certain levels of access to different modules, and you can provide different level of permissions to what they can do inside of different modules into the records they have access to. Okay, then you have roles, which is generally within the hierarchy, where do they exist? And then based on where they exist in the hierarchy, do they need to see everything? So a new role, let's just do a test here. You can decide who someone in the hierarchy, where they report or who they report to in terms of a role. And then you can say share data with peers, which means, hey, if this record is assigned to you, you can also all of the peers with your same role. So let's say you were a manager. It's a better name there. Then different managers would be able to see your data as well. Then you could add a description. So this prevents people seeing data upwards in the hierarchy, but they can see downwards in the hierarchy. Okay, so you have more specific data sharing rules that you can access as well. So if you want to jump into these levels of permissions as well, you can go pretty deep on what different roles are able to do here. So for example, you can see this page allows you to manage default organization permissions and sharing rules. Default organization permissions govern how your records are shared across the organization. To further customize your settings, you can add sharing rules, which will allow you to share records. Okay, so this is where you can get even more specific with the sharing rules. Is you go into the leads module, add a new sharing rule and say, hey, this is the name of the sharing rule. It's based on the record owner, based on criteria of the record. So record share from these groups. This role here, the CEO, and record shared to this role, this group. We don't have groups. All users will have the permission to read write, and delete. So again, just to make this simple, because you can go way down the rabbit hole on this, the important thing to understand is number one, you can determine what they can do to the system. And then number two, what access they have to the information collected or that exists in the system. You can send a booking link from Zoho CRM through this bookings section. So this integrates with your Zoho CRM calendar. You can see I have a 30-minute meeting booking link created here. I can copy this link, jump into a new tab, and then you'll see all of the available times I have inside of Zoho CRM available here. So if you want to send a booking link from Zoho CRM, you have this capability. Also, there's another app called bookings.zoho.com. It's just called Zoho Bookings. And you can also use this app, which is more robust, so that you can apply this to different users and have better integrations with the systems that you use. So this is a more robust version of the bookings capability in Zoho CRM. So if you want to add a booking link here as well that you can share with people so they can book on your calendar when you're available, you can also use Zoho Bookings. There have been reported issues with the integration here, but I want to make you aware of these two tools so that if you want to allow someone to book on your calendar, you can. Now, I feel like a bit of a hypocrite telling you this because I actually use Calendly, but wait a minute, the reason that I use Calendly is because Zoho Bookings in Zoho CRM's bookings capability doesn't allow you to embed a booking page on your website and collect UTM parameters with an integration with Attributor. So I have a very niche, nerdy marketing requirement that makes it so I can't use those tools. The tools that you choose to use should be determined by the requirements that you have. And so because I have that requirement, I'm not able to use these tools as my main booking functionality. I certainly can use it internally, but externally, when I put a page on my website, I have to use Calendly, which is totally fine for now. If you want to control the exact workflow that your users go through, you can design that workflow and cement it into the system using blueprints. Now, you got to be really careful about when and how you use a blueprint in your system, because oftentimes these blueprint initiatives will fail because your processes are constantly changing. And so for every change you make in your process, every little change you make in your process has to be reflected and updated here. So I recommend, as an initial attempt to control a workflow in a system, you focus on the general statuses and stages of a process as opposed to trying to control every little thing that happens. Once you notice there is consistency in the process, that's when you can apply certain blueprints to the system. I'll just give you an idea of what this essentially does. You can say, hey, here are the general phases of a process. Between each phase of the process, certain things need to happen. For example, they need to fill out certain fields, add certain tags. Here's certain messages that can help them. Here's certain associated items that have to do with this transition. And so what it will look like for the user on the front end is there'll be a record, and then they will see these blue sections, right? These transitions as buttons at the top of the record. They have to click on that button to move from one stage to the next. Now, I honestly just think this is too strict for like 99% of situations, because it's a huge burden on the administrator and it's a huge burden on the end user. And let me take a step back. The reason it's a huge burden on the administrators because it's so much upkeep on the back end to consistently update this to reflect the new best practices or processes of the organization, because processes are constantly changing. That's why it's a huge burden on the administrator. Now, the reason that it's a burden on the end user is because an end user has to click through the button. And if the blueprint doesn't reflect the actual process, then it's really frustrating as an end user to have to be forced through a blueprint process. So to take another step back, it's good to know the two different ideas that drive using a blueprint. Honestly, my final recommendation is, if this is getting too confusing, don't worry about it. You don't need to get this complex with the system, but you should be aware that it exists inside of the system, because people talk about blueprints a lot, because I think it sounds really nice and it looks really cool to be able to design your whole process on a layout. But in the actual day-to-day usage of the system and administering of a system, it gets really, really complicated really, really fast. I digress. My point is, you can either do an A to Z blueprint or a A to B, C to D blueprint. Okay, the difference being, an A to Z blueprint is an attempt to essentially map every single variation and possibility in a process on this canvas. You're never going to get that, and even if you do, your process will change, then you have to change the whole thing. And you have to constantly make tweaks. So if you want to do that, great, you can do A to Z. I don't recommend it. A to B, C to D is when you say, hey, there's a particular part of my process that has to be done precisely. So I'm going to put the C to D blueprint for these two stages. That way, people are guided to make the best decisions possible in this part of the process during a transition from one stage to the next. So before you do any of this, you should take a piece of paper or a document out on your computer and get all the process out of your mind onto a document in a bulleted format. That's the best way to do it. Do not do a flowchart. A flowchart doesn't produce the detail necessary to inform system building decisions, but you are able to capture all that information much better inside of a bulleted format. Just do cascaded bulleted notes. And then once you do cascaded bulleted notes, that can inform the journey map, which are the general stages of your process, which will then allow you to be set up for success when you actually do a blueprint. Then again, you don't want to do A to Z, you want to do A to B, C to D if you're going to do a blueprint at all. But you'll really know when you're supposed to do a blueprint if you see a part of the process that's being done incorrectly over and over and over again. So that is the blueprint capabilities inside of Zoho CRM. You can use a feature inside of Zoho CRM called Kiosk to structure the way that you collect information inside of a record in Zoho CRM. Now I'm going to test run this to show you what it would look like in actuality. Just imagine you're inside of a record and then the kiosk is fired up, it's triggered, and you can see what do they sell, who do they sell to, are they already on Zoho, and then Zoho user licenses if applicable. So this allows you to trigger a simplified version of what exists on the record so that you just fill out the relevant fields for a particular task. The nice thing about this as well is after you collect the information inside of a kiosk window, you can push that information wherever you would like it to go. So if the information that you collected here, you wanted to push to different applications, you'd be able to design the kiosk accordingly. If I was to edit this, you will notice that in the edit section, we'll give this a second to pull up, I can add different actions here. So we can actually use a function, a custom function to push that information wherever we want. After the kiosk is filled out, we can add different tasks, meetings, calls. We can do quite a bit of different actions here. This should remind you what you can do in the workflow builder. Essentially the difference between this and a workflow is first, once this is triggered, it opens the screen which you saw earlier. And then second, you can actually make a decision, open another screen, or is another action, you can determine if there's a field update, assign owner tags, email notification activities, create record, convert a record, a lead, do a webhook push, or trigger a custom function, do whatever you'd like with the data. So that is the gist of using a kiosk inside of Zoho CRM. It gives you a view of exactly the information you need to fill out, and then I can push that information or trigger actions afterwards. Let's say you wanted to build a form to collect information and then add records to Zoho CRM in modules for every form submission. You'd be able to do that inside of Zoho CRM through the web form builder. Now, this is a great option if you are just on Zoho CRM and if you are not on Zoho One. However, this is extremely limited. So you can see I'm able to make this a little more robust. It's a beautiful form with just one field. If I wanted to add more, I could. This is based on the leads module. So you're going to see all the fields from the leads module accessible here. I also have access to these advanced fields if I want to add those as well. From here, I can go to next, and then I can go to save. And then I can either embed this on my website if I wanted to, or onto a web page. I could grab those different embed codes for iframe, embed, source code, or I can go over to link and I can just send it over as a link to someone. And I can even make this a QR code. So I can download this image, put it onto something physical so people can scan it and access this form. So that's pretty neat. Now, I will say it's confusing because there's overlap with an application called Zoho Forms. So Zoho Forms is a better option for you if you are on the Zoho One platform. Zoho One gives you access to 46 Zoho applications, Zoho CRM included, whereas Zoho CRM just gives you access to the features within that application. Okay, so you can see Zoho CRM, because it's the only function of the business they're worrying about is form collection or collecting data through a form. This is way more robust than the web form builder inside of Zoho CRM. So I highly recommend that you use this. If you're in Zoho One, you're already paying for it. Why not take advantage of it? So you can integrate with Zoho CRM directly. You can share it in all the ways that I just showed you. Also, you are able to enable UTM tracking, so it's better on a marketing front. Then you can change the different things. You can do a lot on the customization of the front end. And so there is much more capability here between the within Zoho Forms as opposed to what you're going to get inside of the Zoho CRM web form builder. So to recap, if you are on Zoho CRM only as a standalone application and you need to create a form, use the web form section there. If you are on Zoho One or you have access to Zoho Forms, then use that because it is much more robust and it's going to be a better experience for controlling the form, the behavior of the form, and it's going to be more robust for collecting marketing data. You should be using Zoho CRM to filter out the records that you don't want to see inside of a particular view. So for example, in the leads module, if I just wanted to see reached leads, I could go over to the filter section. Then I can go over to lead statuses. I can click on lead status, click on reached. I can apply the filter and you will see I'm only seeing reached leads. So you can filter down the records that are relevant for the task at hand. That way you're not seeing all the information in the system, you're just seeing what you need to see. Also, you can save those filters. So you can see reached leads here. You can just click on that and it will reinstate that previously created filter so that you can see the records that are relevant to you inside of Zoho CRM. If you want to talk about security and compliance within Zoho CRM and you need to check for specific security requirements that your organization has or specific compliance requirements, then you're going to want to go over to this compliance at Zoho page and you can view all the certifications that Zoho has along with all the different compliance requirements that they are meeting. So you can see it's a long list here, but if you have specific requirements for security and compliance, then you'll want to check out this page on Zoho. You can just search for compliance at Zoho, or you can go to zoho.com/compliance.html, and you'll be able to check if Zoho is compliant and meets your requirements. Zoho CRM has a very robust mobile application so that you can access your organization's information on the go. So you can see here that number one, you can access the different records that you collect in your organization. Number two, you can access your different analytics reports that you create in the Zoho CRM analytics section. And then you can also route your different field sales initiatives if that's relevant to you. If it's not relevant to you, you don't have to worry about it, but that's made possible through Route IQ Mobile. And then you can also convert different business cards you're collecting. You can take a picture, it will scan and add the information to the relevant fields in the module that you're trying to upload to. So the main thing you're going to use it for really is just for accessing data on the go, but it is a very robust mobile application.